Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Let's get right on into it. All right, the new SEC. Can Texas and Oklahoma handle this conference? This is going to be a fun video. We're going to talk about a lot in this one, not just Oklahoma and Texas, let me assure you. We got a lot of newcomers, a lot of new quarterbacks, new coaches. We've got Mike Elko at Texas A&M, and we're going to talk about the playoff. We're going to talk about the new conference. We're going to talk about money, all these things leading into the 2024 season, which I've told you folks, if you follow this channel, I think it's going to be the best season in the history of college football, primarily because of the 12-team playoff. And I know not everybody's on board with that. I understand tradition. Some people want to go back to the bowl championship series and all that kind of stuff. I get it, okay? But for me, this is a very exciting season because we've had a half a dozen teams that have been in the playoff, and that's about it. You've had Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, and then a few others, Clemson and Michigan, et cetera. There's like a very small number. Now we're going to have a ton of teams getting into the playoff from year to year to year, and everybody's games at the end of the year will matter. Whereas right now it comes down to a few ball games, and then you get into the college bowl season, and I only watch like the playoff, and then my team, like last year, we played Iowa. And that's just because of personal reasons. But most of the bowl games I don't even watch because it doesn't really matter. Now, these games and this 12-team playoff is going to explode in viewership. And college football needs the money. And we've talked a lot about that, and we'll talk about that some more going forward. But let's start out with Texas. Now, Steve Sarkisian has done a very good job there. It's been a long time since Texas has really been any good. They're suddenly good again. And there's really no reason for them not to be. They've got unlimited oil money. They should never struggle. They should do great in recruiting, which they typically do. And right now they've got two of the best quarterbacks in the country with Quinn Ewers, who is strong, and then also, of course, Arch Manning sitting in the background. And he's ready to go at any point, and he's going to be a sophomore this year. Now, they had their coming out party last year when they beat Alabama on the road, which is really hard to do. So for those folks that think Texas is not for real, I can tell you they are.
He beat Joe Lewis's ass.
That's right, he did whoop Joe Lewis' ass.
Yeah, they beat Joe Lewis, and that's hard to do. So I would expect them to have a very strong opportunity to excel in the SEC, but I think it's going to be much harder than they realize. They're used to having a pretty easy schedule and then having to really get up for a few games. That's not going to be the case anymore. You're going to have to be ready to go on a moment's notice because some of these SEC teams that are like in the middle, you think, oh, they're not that good, will whoop your butt. They just flat out will. It's just the reason you don't think they're really good is because they get beat up by Georgia and Alabama and a few others on a regular basis. You think, well, they must not be very good.
Wrong.
Wrong.
That's not how it is. So let's take a look at their schedule. Now, they start out, they've got an easy one, Colorado State, they're 1-0, et cetera. Then they play Michigan, and it's at Michigan.
It's got to be America's team.
Now, obviously, this is not the same team that's been there the last few years when you had Jim Harbaugh and all that kind of stuff. This is a new Michigan, and I don't think they're going to be that good. I really don't. I think Texas will beat them. It's at Ann Arbor, but I just think Texas handles them. I really do. So they're going to be fine. Then they play a couple of really easy games, and they've got Mississippi State. The Oklahoma game should be very interesting. It's at the Cotton Bowl, so that helps them. And then they do have to play Georgia. That'll be a rude awakening there. Whew. Georgia's probably the best team in the country, and they'll hurt you. So that's going to be a really tough game. It's at home, which will help them. That ought to be a great game, honestly. Then they got an easy Vanderbilt. They got to play Florida at home, at Arkansas, Kentucky, and then Texas A&M, which will be an absolute battle because that's at College Station. So it's not a particularly hard schedule for an SEC one, but it'll get your attention. They'll probably make the playoff with that schedule. I would think they're going to be about 10-2, if I had to guess. That would be a conservative number for them, and that'll get them in. So I think they're going to do okay. Now, understand, they think they're going to come in here and wipe the floor with the SEC. I've dealt with these Texas fans. They are very confident that they're going to be able to handle this no problem.
That's an attention getter.
And they do have the talent to do so, and they've got a very good coach. So we'll see how this plays out. But this is exciting to see how they do. And I know some of you are like, why do we bring in these teams? You know, why do you want Florida State and Clemson to join the SEC? Here's the thing about conferences. You're either growing or you're dying. There is no in between.
If you ain't first, you're last. You know what I'm talking about?
That's right. You're either first or you're last. Ask the ACC how they're doing right now. Ask the Pac-12. Oh, that's right. You can't ask them. They don't exist anymore. The ACC is going to become a second-tiered conference. I think they'll stay in existence because they brought in, I don't know, SMU, California, and Stanford. Whoopity-doo. Is that supposed to impress me because you brought in some teams or some colleges? You didn't bring anybody that was going to bring power. I mean, ACC's in big trouble. So I know some teams, some fan bases are like, well, we'll just keep bringing in these great teams. You need the great teams. And don't worry about making the playoffs. The playoffs are going to expand to 16 teams, and I'm going to explain that to you here in a minute too. It has to. And hopefully it won't go any further than that. 16's really enough. But anyway, let's get into the next team, which is Oklahoma. Now, Oklahoma's a very solid team. They, again, have been, had a pretty easy schedule in the past. They've always kind of done that. They actually made the playoffs a bunch back then. But it's going to be tough this first year. They're not used to a schedule like this. And, of course, they got totally screwed over when Lincoln Riley ran off because he was scared to death about going into the SEC, and he went and took the money out in USC.
Brave Sir Robin ran away. No! Bravely ran away, away.
I didn't.
Yeah, brave Sir Lincoln. And he took your quarterback too, which that stunk. But anyway, let's take a look at your schedule. You got Temple and Houston and Tulane, so you're 3-0. Then you're going to play Tennessee. That's going to be a very tough ball game. It's at home for you. That's going to get your attention. That's a 50-50 ball game in my mind. It really is. Then you got to play Auburn at Auburn. Do not sleep on Auburn. Don't do it. I know you think they're not that good. You may find out the opposite. Then you got to play Texas at the Cotton Bowl. So that's going to be a tough ball game. It's going to be a very exciting game. South Carolina, you're playing them at home. So that's helpful. I don't think you'll have any problem with them. They've got Lenore Sellers, who's their quarterback, who I'm not sure he's ready. Very talented guy, but I don't know. Then at Ole Miss, that's going to be very tough. Maine, Missouri at Missouri, dang. And then Alabama and LSU, jeez.
Lions and tigers and bears. Oh, my.
Lions and tigers and bears.
Oh, my.
Oklahoma, man, I don't think you're going to make the playoff with that schedule. That's brutal. That really is. You've never had a schedule like this, folks. You just haven't. You're a good team. You got Brent Venables. He went 10-3 last year. You've got Jackson Arnold, who's a 5-star quarterback. I mean, you're a good team. You're going to get our attention, Tennessee Vols. But I don't know. I know you just gave Brent a contract extension of, $8.6 million per year. That was a good move. He's Mr. Defense. He was a great defensive coordinator at Clemson, so I think you made the good move there. But this first year is going to be that's just a brutal schedule. It just is. And you're going to have the same schedule next year. So we'll see. You might surprise some people. I just don't see you making the playoff. I just don't. I think the schedule's too tough. I think if you were back in your old schedule, you probably would. All right, another team I want to talk about is Texas A&M because they got a brand new head coach in Mike Elko, which I honestly think is a terrific hire. He's a very good X's and O's guy. The dude won at Duke, a basketball school. That is one of the toughest schools to win at, and he did a good job. And you got rid of Jimbo Fisher, which honestly your entire fan base had given up on. I mean, I tell you, when he didn't go for it on 4th down and won against Alabama on their 49-yard line or whatever, he was done. Right then and there, he was done, cooked. You knew right there, it's like this guy doesn't have it. He doesn't have it. So let's take a look at Texas A&M with their new coach. All right, so you got Notre Dame. Ooh, man, that's a tough first game. 7:30 at College Station. Ooh, that's going to be rough. Then you got McNeese State at Florida. Then you got Bowling Green, Arkansas. Man, you could be 3-2, 4-1. You'll probably be 4-1, I would think. Then you got Missouri at Mississippi State, no problem. LSU at South Carolina. New Mexico State, easy peasy, at Auburn, and then Texas. All right, Texas A&M, that's a tough schedule. That just flat out is. This is a very talented team. You've got a very good coach. You got plenty. Well, you do have plenty of money, but Jimbo's creaking you right now. You got to come up with $76 million for him, plus another $3 or $4 million for his assistants. That's $80 million. That's going to hurt you for a while. Fortunately for you, you've got, like, I keep saying this, I think you got like about 10 J.R. Ewings hanging around. So you'll get the money. You'll come out of this and be okay, and your recruiting will continue to be good. But that $80 million's it's a bit of a hangover for you. So with this schedule, brand new coach, I don't think you'll make the playoff this year, but I think you'll start seeing improvement, and this is a team you can get behind. It may take him a couple of years to really get things rolling there. This is a dangerous team. Don't sleep on them. But Texas A&M, I don't think you make the playoffs this year, but this is a team to keep an eye on because they've got everything you need to be really, really good. Like playoff on a regular basis good. So there's so much going on in this, and I want to talk to you now. I said they're going to go to 16 teams in the playoff. They have to. If you know about the settlement with the NCAA and the class action lawsuits with House, Hubbard, and Carter and all those lawsuits, $22 million a year for the next 10 years, and it'll probably go up a little bit each year after that, is going to be going to the players as far as revenue sharing. That money's got to come from somewhere. And if you notice, Texas A&M let 16 people go, which were assistant athletic directors, player personnel people. You're going to see that through all the schools. They're going to have to cut expenses to come up with the $22 million and raise more money. Well, the raising more money is pretty easy. This is what each team gets for the college football playoff. If you're in the SEC, you get $23 million, Big Ten $21, and the ACC $13 and $12 for Big 12. Well, if they go to 16 teams, that number goes up. And they're going to have to raise more money. It's just the way that it is. They're going to wear the donors out, and they're going to cut expenses. And they'll get more money when they go to 16 because you're going to find this college football playoff is going to have massive appeal. The viewing numbers are going to be staggering. I'm telling you, it's going to be the most exciting end of season. It's also going to help viewership with the games at the end of the year with the teams that have a chance to get into the playoff because all their fan bases are going to be rabid watching those games. This is going to be financially a windfall for college football at the perfect time. They need more money. Every team's going to need an extra $15, $20 million a year, and they can get some of that from the playoff and some of it by cutting expenses and some of it because TV money is going to go up because of the playoff. And I know some people think it'll hurt the regular season. I'm not as concerned about that, certainly not the next 2 years, because realize it's a 12-team playoff. The first 4 conference champions get a bye. Then the next 4 get home field advantage, which is huge. The next 4 just be lucky you're in. So those games count a lot, and the conference championship counts a lot. So look for the money to increase because it has to. And we've got a lot of other big stories going on in the SEC this year. You got Kalen DeBoer at Alabama. I am fascinated by that. I want to see how Jalen Milroe does with a quarterback whisperer head coach. Milroe might excel. He may struggle and get replaced. So that's a big story. I'm super interested to see what Brock Vandagriff does at Kentucky. 5-star quarterback sitting behind Carson Beck at Georgia. That could be a real nice combination for Kentucky Wildcats. I think they're going to be good this year. Not, fantastic or something. I mean, it's a basketball school. But Mark Stoops has done a very good job there, and that's not an easy place to be a head coach. It's not like they have a bevy of talent in the state of Kentucky for football. But that's a great story. Of course, you've got Nico Iamaleava getting ready to start for Tennessee, and Josh Heupel, James Pierce, the #1 edge rusher in the country. Tennessee's going to be a tough team to play. That offense with the right quarterback you've seen, they can terrorize a defense. And we'll see if our secondary can hold up. We've got a great defensive line. It's been fantastic the last 2 years, but our secondary has just stunk up the joint. And it needs to improve dramatically. We've got a whole new secondary. You never know. It's more talented than it's ever been, certainly in Josh Heupel's years, but I don't know if it's going to be any good or not. If it is, we're going to be a brutal team to face. If the secondary sucks, like it has, we'll be beatable. So I know the entire state of Tennessee is going crazy over this season coming up. They're fired up. And when you come to Neyland and have to play us, oh man, it's going to be something. Because when that offense gets rolling, look out. So that's a story I'm definitely going to be following. Also super interested to see what Lane Kiffin does at Ole Miss. He's got an easy schedule. He's got Jackson Dart at quarterback. That's a dangerous team. Everybody wants to know about Missouri. Eli Drinkwitz. You got Brady Cook as quarterback, very good quarterback. You've got that terrific wide receiver there. Everybody's going to be watching that as well. There's so much going on in the SEC that it's kind of crazy. And then up in the Big Ten, they've added new teams, USC, Washington, Oregon, and Oregon's killing it in recruiting because they've got all that Nike money. The Big Ten is trying to keep up with the SEC, and they're really improving their ranks. As you know, the Big Ten's very top-heavy, and they got a lot of weaker teams at the bottom. And if you don't think they do, Tennessee played their conference champion, the other side of their conference, which was Iowa, and beat them 35-0. And we weren't close to winning the conference championship last year in the SEC. But adding those three teams is big, and that's another conference that realizes you're either growing or you're dying, and you don't want to fail in this environment. This is survival of the fittest, period, when it comes to college football. Ohio State, good grief, Ryan Day is on the hot seat. Think about that. They're number one in recruiting right now. They've got more talent they know what to do with. They're going to make the playoff. But if he doesn't beat Michigan, which I think he will, I don't think Michigan's going to be nearly as good as they were last year. They're talking about firing him. I mean, that's how they are in Ohio State. They literally don't care. They want a natty or at least compete for one, or you're gone. So there's so much going on with college football. It's crazy. Then you got the ACC with Florida State and Clemson suing them to get out, which I think something's going to happen before August 15th. I think there's a deadline right there. I haven't covered that in a while, but look for something to happen in the ACC pretty soon. And oh, by the way, we're not far from football. The very first game is week 0, August 24th. So we're less than 2 months away. What's that, like 55 days from football? And the first game of the year is Florida State versus Georgia Tech in Dublin, Ireland at 12 o'clock. Then we've got a couple of other games that nobody's going to care about. McNeese versus Tarleton State. Montana State at New Mexico. North Alabama versus Southeast Missouri State, Tech, etc. But they're going to get a lot of viewership because people are football hungry, and I think that's why they do the week 0 and they put in teams that are willing to do that. The only big game is Florida State and Georgia Tech. Then you'd have some Thursday games on the 29th, North Carolina at Minnesota, North Dakota State at Colorado, Sacramento State at San Jose, etc. Friday, TCU at Stanford by themselves, 10:30 at night. And then big time, here comes a Chick-fil-A playoff game. Man, kickoff game, Clemson versus Georgia. Woo! That'll be great. And you've got some good games there, the Notre Dame at Texas A&M, Miami at Florida. Very interested in that ball game. And you got a few Sunday games. LSU's playing Southern California. I'll be dogged. Vegas Kickoff Classic. And a Monday game. Wow, Boston College at Florida State. That's probably because the NFL hadn't started, so they're going to do a Monday night game. And then week 2, we got some great games. Texas at Michigan, NC State versus Tennessee. That'll be a game I'm very interested in. So, folks, we're less than 2 months away to what I believe will be the most exciting season in college football history. I'm as confident of that as I could possibly be, and I'm pumped about it. Oh, and I also, for the Tennessee fans out there, Tony Vitello, I think he's close to signing a contract extension. I'm hearing it could be any time. It could be any time. So I'm excited about that. I know there's been some concern, but look, he's not going anywhere, so quit worrying. All right, folks, just wanted to cover the new SEC. I know some of y'all don't like change, and I get it, so you don't have to go in the comment section and go crazy on me. But look, as I've said, you've got to grow, and you've got to increase the value of your conference and increase the money that you're going to get as a team. The happiest team on the planet right now is Vanderbilt. They're going to get more and more and more money, and the last thing they want to do is be taken out of the SEC, which I don't think they should. They're a founding member. But anyway, it could get a little dicey. Don't be shocked if the Big Ten starts getting rid of a few weaker teams. I don't know if the SEC will do that or not. But anyway, if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Let's continue to cover all these big college sports stories. If you've not subscribed, boom, hit that little button right there. It will not cost you a nickel, a dime, a farthing, a peso. I don't know. And right over here's the most recent video YouTube thinks you'll enjoy. And we will see you next time on Sports Talk J.